They shot her before we even cut the cake. 5 bullets tore through the lace and silk, and in a blink, the woman I promised forever to was gone. One second, I was kissing her forehead, whispering we made it. The next, I was face down in glass wrists, zip-tied, tasting blood and vanilla frosting. The cops looked around, realized it wasn't even the right address, and walked out like they'd just spilled a drink instead of a life. That was the night my wife Alina died, and the night someone else inside me was born. In the morning, the news called it a gang-related tragedy. They plastered her high school photo next to stock images of drugs and mugshots that weren't even hers. No mention of the vows we wrote ourselves, the cake she baked, or how she never even had a parking ticket. They called me a person of interest, hinted maybe PTSD, made me dangerous. I was released after 2 days with no charges, no apology, not even a ride home. I went back to the rec center, our confetti still hanging from the ceiling, her bouquet crushed by the door, blood still on the tile. The love of my life was gone because some man mixed up numbers on a warrant. Something inside me cracked wide open. I tried to do it right. I called lawyers, filed complaints. They told me it was too politically sensitive, no video evidence, you'll lose before you begin. A civil rights attorney even said off the record they'll spin your military training in against you, say you were the target. I hung up on him. That was the day I stopped believing in the system. I opened my old footlocker, the one full of medals, journals, and a Glock I swore I'd never need again. But it wasn't rage that guided me. It was precision, discipline, a soldier studying his enemy. I started with Brian Cole, the rookie. He was the only one who hesitated that night, the only one whose eyes looked human. I found him drowning whiskey at a dive bar, shaking, mumbling about a wedding gone wrong. One night I stepped out of the shadows, hit him across the temple, dragged him into an alley. When he came to, I set a photo of Alina in her dress on his chest. He sobbed, said I didn't shoot. I was new. I couldn't stop it. I leaned close and whispered, "You watched her die. That makes you guilty. I didn't kill him." I let him sit there with her eyes staring back. 3 days later, he resigned, disappeared. One down, not dead, but broken. Word spread. The department hushed up, but inside their ranks, fear started to seep. Then I went after Sergeant Keller, the proud one, the squad leader. Sunday morning, he was singing in church with his wife and daughters. I slipped a photo under his windshield wiper. Alina's smile frozen forever with blood blooming across her dress. On the back, "You led them through the door." That night, Detective Briggs, the one who planted the gun, ended up in the hospital. Ribs shattered, a message spray-painted on his wall. Wrong address, right target. The city split in two. Officials called me a radicalized veteran, a terrorist, but online people whispered a different word: hero. Hashtags popped up. Justice for Alina, wrong house man. Some painted me as a ghost, others as vengeance. I didn't care. I wasn't chasing names. I was chasing truth. Derek Ruiz, the trigger man, was next. He prided himself on that spotless car, waxed it like it was a trophy. So I torched it outside his gym. Didn't touch him, didn't need to. On the pavement, I carved, "This is for her heartbeat." Watching his armor turn to ash felt colder than I expected. Less fire, more routine. And that scared me because the grief wasn't screaming anymore. It was just there, like a shadow I'd made peace with. Then came Terrence Miles, the justifier. The one who went on camera and said my wife's death was the cost of keeping communities safe. I mailed him a bullet etched with the raid date. He went quiet after that. But by then my face had leaked. $50,000 on my head. The FBI wanted me labeled armed and dangerous. Protesters painted murals of Alina in her dress, her veil haloed like a saint. I didn't ask for any of it. I just wanted them to say her name right. But the last man wasn't a face on TV. He was Deputy Chief Roland Blake, the architect. The one who signed the falsified warrant, who approved the raid on a tip that didn't exist. The man who turned our wedding into a kill zone with the stroke of a pen. He lived behind fences and cameras with guards and a dog. But even ghosts have routines. I waited. Saturday night, he came home alone. I pressed a gun to the back of his head and said, "Hello, Chief." I zip-tied him to a chair, opened my laptop, and played the footage. I dug up body cam clips, falsified affidavits, unsigned warrants. Alina's scream echoed from the speakers, and Blake looked away. You authorized this, I told him. He smirked. You think that's rare, raids get messy. Maybe she should have lived somewhere safer. My hand shook on the trigger. He leaned forward. Do it, soldier. You're just another angry man with a gun. Pull it and watch the headlines write themselves. I lowered the Glock. Not because he deserved mercy, but because he wasn't worth a bullet. Instead, I uploaded everything. Mirror sites, activists, newsrooms. Then I filmed him tied to his chair and said to the camera, "This is Roland Blake. He killed my wife with a lie. These are the receipts." By the time the cops stormed his house, I was gone. But the files were everywhere. They couldn't bury it this time. The world saw Alina's face not as collateral damage, but as a woman bright, innocent, in love. Protests erupted across the country. Within a week, Blake was arrested, officers resigned, and the department cracked. And me, I didn't run. When the FBI finally caught me, I was sitting on a porch, a wedding photo in one hand, and her ring looped around my neck. No disguise, no fight, just done. At trial, they called me dangerous, methodical. The defense called me grieving, abandoned by the system. The jury took 8 hours. Guilty. The judge, an older black woman, said, "You did not seek justice through lawful means, but neither did those sworn to uphold it." She gave me 20 years parole and 10. Outside crowds chanted, "We are Jordan, justice for Alina." My name was painted on walls, my mugshot printed on shirts. I became a symbol, though all I'd ever wanted was to be a husband. In prison, time slowed. I kept a laminated photo of her in my pocket, her laughing in the sun. 3 years in, I got a letter from her mother. It said, "I hated you for a while. I needed someone to blame. But now I see you didn't lose your mind. You found hers again. Thank you for showing the world who my daughter really was." I folded it, placed it beside her photo. And for the first time in years, I felt something that almost resembled peace. I still write to her sometimes. My love, I thought revenge would fill the hole. But justice isn't healing, and healing isn't justice. Still, they say your name right now, and they say it with respect. That's all I ever wanted. Lights go out, cell goes dark, and I hold her photo like a prayer. That's where I am now, caught between grief and truth, between punishment and legacy. So I'll leave you with this. Was I wrong for what I did? Or was I just finishing what the system refused to start? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because I already know the answer in my heart. They killed my wife at the wrong door, and I made sure the world finally knocked on the right one. They shot her before we even cut the cake. 5 bullets tore through the lace and silk, and in a blink, the woman I promised forever to was gone. 1 second, I was kissing her forehead, whispering we made it. The next, I was face down in glass wrists, zip-tied, tasting blood and vanilla frosting. The cops looked around, realized it wasn't even the right address, and walked out like they'd just spilled a drink instead of a life. That was the night my wife Alina died, and the night someone else inside me was born. In the morning, the news called it a gang-related tragedy. They plastered her high school photo next to stock images of drugs and mugshots that weren't even hers. No mention of the vows we wrote ourselves, the